Caiti Ward, being a huge fan of Rooster Teeth, wanted to make some friends with other Rooster Teeth fans in Australia, so she just asked a bunch of people and was like, hey, you wanna hang out? And all those people started telling their friends, who started telling their friends, who started telling their friends, and it snowballed into this huge thing, and eventually grew to become Rooteeth, one of the biggest Rooster Teeth fan groups in the entire world. So Caiti took the role of leading the community, organizing events, and creating a place where Aussie Rooster Teeth fans could make friends, be safe, and feel like they belong. And it was here that Caiti met Jack Pattillo. At the time, it was around 2009-ish, and after meeting online, Caiti and Jack became pretty good friends, eventually meeting in person at the very first RTX in 2011. Here, they got along really well, but since they were both in other relationships, as well as living on other sides of the planet, they stayed just friends. But after some time, they both ended up in really bad, crappy relationships. But because the two of them were going through the same thing, they both helped each other through their experiences and grew closer because of it. So in early 2013, when they both got out of their bad relationships, Jack was in Australia with Caiti, and they were both single. So they were like, hey, you wanna give this a try? And they immediately fit perfectly together and loved being with each other. So they decided to make it official. Jack and Caiti were now a thing. And to celebrate, Jack got a Tetris block tattoo to forever remember when the two of them got together. But while they were both really happy together, there was a big problem. Caiti was in Australia and Jack was in the US, so their relationship would have to be long distance. So Jack decided to go back to Australia and visit Caiti again. But when he left, he couldn't bear to be apart from her again. So Caiti flew over to the US. And it followed like this, over and over again, flying from Australia to America, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, which must have been wonderful for their bank accounts. But the reason they had to do so many back and forth trips was because Caiti, as an Australian, could only visit the US in 90-day chunks, which Jack described as nowhere near enough time to spend with your partner. But it was during these trips that Jack realized something was different about Caiti. When they were at the airport, Jack and Caiti were going their separate ways, Caiti flying back to Sydney and Jack going to the US. And when Caiti was leaving to go on her plane, Jack was waving goodbye to her. And as soon as she left and Jack couldn't see her anymore, he just burst into tears and started crying uncontrollably. Oh, it hurts my heart to think of Jack crying. But it was this moment that made Jack realize that this relationship was different. Caiti was so much more special to him than anyone he'd ever been with before. So after all those back and forth trips, when Caiti came to Texas, Jack had enough and was like, I'm not going to be apart from you anymore. I love you, let's get married. So Caiti moved to the US, and on November 12th, 2013, Caiti and Jack got married. It's not an exaggeration to say that they're perfect for each other. Caiti described her life as a mess before she met Jack, and Jack describes Caiti as his partner in crime in everything they do together. And now, they both lead Rooster Teeth's Extra Life charity stream and have raised millions with Rooster Teeth and the fan base for children in need. So Caiti and Jack, thanks for being awesome people.